Welcome to the Register's Report. It's great to be here again at the local scene. They've been very helpful to me in the ability to share real estate information. We'll talk about the numbers for last month, the month of July, recordings at the Registry of Deeds. I have a great guest in the second segment of the show, Bill Callahan, a longtime realtor, talking about some of the changes in the industry, as well as what's going on in the marketplace, and then some of our great county and colony history. So let's go right to the numbers. As you can see, the numbers of recordings of deeds, which are sales of property, were higher in July than they were in June. 696 sales versus 672, 8% less than last year, 5% less year to date. The average sale price for the month of July is still a very high number, $696,476. Plymouth County is a very diverse place, very high-end homes and Hinghams and the Marions and all of those Duxburys and all of those, and then more modest numbers in the middle towns. But every community you'll see has sold real estate. There are 27 communities in Plymouth County, from Abington down to Whitman. You'll see all these sales from January to July. The largest number of sales have been in Plymouth, Brockton being second, and other communities falling behind those, but still have activity. The next number you're going to see is a bar chart of mortgages. Mortgages have ticked up a little bit based upon the rates changing down somewhat. We've started to see a little bit of refinancing going on as the rates drop, as they will in the future once the Federal Reserve takes some actions. There'll be an opportunity for people to refinance. But 1,237 mortgages were recorded in July, again, higher than the 1,125 in June, 60% more than last July, but year-to-date, down 3%. We always follow foreclosure issues, particularly since the meltdown of 2003. The foreclosure numbers are really, really low. There was a freeze during COVID, and they really haven't gone up that much. There are only 11 foreclosure deeds in Plymouth County in all of July, more than the 6 in June. Just for your information, a foreclosure deed is when a lender has taken back property, usually for failure to pay. Sometimes jobs get in the way, you lose a job, somebody loses a job in the family, you have a health issue. That's when people are getting into trouble. But if you find yourself getting into difficulty, reach out to a federal housing counselor. The next number you're going to see is the foreclosure notices. A foreclosure notice is the first instrument we see at the registry that shows someone is in trouble. Again, if you're facing difficulty, reach out to a federal housing council. They can get you into their circuit, try to help you maybe modify the loan, extend the life of the loan, or things like that. Don't give up. Always fight for your property, because it's hard to get back once you get yourself deep into trouble. 35 foreclosure notices in July, 42 in June, and 4% up year to date. So you can also see a chart of the foreclosures and foreclosure notices for the 27 communities of Plymouth County. Still a lot of zeros there. You see in Brockton, Plymouth, and Wareham, a little bit of an uptick, but for the most part, they're still under control. So if you have not signed up for our free property fraud alert, please do so. You go on our website, go to resources, look up fraud alert. If you put your email in there, anything that is recorded against your name, you'll get a notice, and that's the best way to stay current. There's not a lot of fraud going on out there. They're usually between family members, but still you gotta pay attention for your most valuable asset. A great guest coming in again next segment, William Callahan of William Callahan Realty Group and Keller Williams, and we'll see you in the next segment. Welcome back to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I am the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County. In this segment of the show, we always do something educational in nature. Surveyors, appraisers, many real estate brokers, closing attorneys. Last month I had the founder of the South Shore Irish Heritage Trail. So sometimes we do a few different things, but we really like to talk about real estate, and the people who are boots on the ground in real estate are our realtors. So I want to welcome back an old friend and longtime guest, William Callahan of William Callahan Realty Group and Keller Williams Realty.
Right.
Thanks for coming back, Bill.
My pleasure. I always enjoy being here with you.
So let's talk a little bit about, I know you've done this before. How the heck did you end up in the real estate business?
I needed a job. I got engaged and I left my previous employer, Knapp Shoes, and my father was in the business, so I joined my father in July of '86, got married in August of '86. So, long time ago. But here I am. I'm here.
Yeah. And a little bit about your business right now?
So I'm with Keller Williams Realty now, and it's worked out very well. I used to be a sole proprietor. And the real estate market, we're doing well, but it's a different market. You put a listing on, a lot of showings, then there's a couple of weeks of nothing, and it's hard to explain. Interest rates are getting a little bit better as of last week. There's a few more houses coming on, but there's not that intensity that we had 3 or 4 years ago where people were lined up outside.
Mm-hmm.
That's not there anymore.
It was crazy during the COVID years.
Yeah, a little too crazy.
Yeah.
So now there's actually marketing time. You'll see something on the market 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month. You'll see price reductions on properties. So we're coming a little bit back to normal, and that's actually a good time for buyers to get in the market because they can make a choice without being pressured in making a choice.
So where were you in the spring leading up to the summer months? How were you doing
My first
then?
quarter, and the first quarter of a lot of folks at Keller Williams at least, was very slow.
Mm-hmm.
And we finally came out of it March, April, where people said, okay, I'm ready to go, put my house on the market. And weather cooperated, all that kind of thing. So since that time, it's been pretty steady.
Okay.
Things coming on the market, moving right along. Things have been good.
And we're making the turn quickly into the fall.
We sure are. Boy, it's coming fast now.
Yeah.
I just in the parking lot, I hung up with a lady. She said, call me right after Labor Day. So and she's relocating to San Antonio where her daughter lives.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great place.
Yeah.
So we're going to see changes if all the stories about the Federal Reserve's decisions, future decisions are true.
In terms of the
rates
realtors,
coming down?
Rates coming down is very much true. I mean, all the loan officers are saying that it's going to happen.
It has already, right?
It has already
Yeah,
started, even without the Fed
Yeah.
doing anything. And I think you're going to see them do something on the Federal Reserve policy, or maybe we get down to 5.5. If we're at 5.5, you can't complain.
Yeah.
That's really the market.
I've actually heard last month, in the month of July, we actually started seeing a few refinances because the rates have come down and people want to take advantage and save money on their mortgage.
I was had lunch with a closing attorney out of Quincy on Friday, and he said he's starting to see some refis.
Yeah,
Yes.
it really dropped off over the last couple of years.
If you get to 1.5 points, maybe not quite 2, but if you get to a point and a half and you're at 7.5 or 7,
Yeah.
you can get to under 6 to 5.5.
Yeah,
You're going to do it.
right. So what's going to break the dam?
What do you mean break the dam?
Well, it's really held up now.
Yeah.
Low inventory, higher interest rates. Nobody wants to move.
Well, if the interest rates come down where people can now say, I'm going to sell because I can afford the next spot,
Yeah.
that's the key. And I'll tell you the other thing, too. I don't know if you saw in Maura Healy's bill that she signed into 2 weeks ago.
I did.
Accessory dwelling units, ADU. Don't forget the ADU. Accessory dwelling units are now legal in Massachusetts.
As of right.
The whole state.
Yeah.
And I went down Friday, the first day, to my building inspector and asked him about it, you know, because Jane and I are talking about, could we
Yeah.
put that in our backyard? Well, you can legally now, but they have not put all the specifics together in terms of the zoning requirements
Okay.
or the building requirements, setbacks, side setback, front setback, utilities, things like that. So, and I was told by the Bob Rulli, chairman of the Economic Development Committee in Bridgewater, it's a 500-page bill, so it's going to take a little while,
Right.
5 or 6 months before they have something on the books.
Yeah, I know they've really looked to that as a main point in the new bill, new legislation.
People can have a place to go now. I mean, it's not going to happen immediate, but it
Yeah.
gives people a choice now.
Right. Gives an option.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I haven't really seen much of that yet, but as you say, it's probably going to take some time for the towns to figure it out.
Correct. And you're going to need space requirements. There's going to be space requirements and all that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Interesting. So let's talk about our marketplace, where you think it's heading through the year. I mean, obviously, a lot depends upon the Federal Reserve meeting in September.
Yeah. Well, the big news is the National Association of Realtor settlement.
Okay.
The DOJ is still out there. They haven't weighed in on this yet, but this was a settlement with the case in Missouri, and it came into effect on Saturday. So here's the crux of it. You as a seller, when we go to talk to you, we tell you that all commissions are negotiable. And now we say to you, you're going to pay me as your listing agent, yes, but you have a choice. You don't have to offer buyer agent compensation. You can, or you don't have to. And if you don't offer it, then the buyer agent has to be compensated on their own through their buyer client. It's going to be a big, big difference in our market. And buyer agents are going to have to really get educated and be sharp and know what they're doing and what their value proposition is to their client, the buyer. And buyers are going to have to be educated on what their obligations are. They cannot get an agent now. They cannot leave the house or go look at a house without a buyer contract, a buyer agent contract. Before they said, I'll meet you at the house. No more. Have to sit down and have a buyer agent contract before you take them anywhere.
That's interesting because normally, I mean, not normally in the past, it'd be a 6%, for example, commission.
Correct. Yeah.
Split 3 and 3.
Yeah, yeah, all gone, all gone.
And that kind of, didn't that bring more people to the house?
It did, yeah.
Yeah.
But the suit was alleged that the sellers were paying too much. Price of real estate, they're paying too much. We were making too much, and we didn't offer any. We didn't say it was negotiable. We said you have to do this. So it was very.
So who brought the lawsuit? Do you remember?
There were two lawyers. I don't remember the name.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name now. And the case was tried in Missouri, and it became a class action suit.
Sure.
So they settled with real estate companies, Coldwell Banker, Keller Williams, Century 20, all over the country, 50 states. And then they sued the National Association of Realtors for $410 million. They settled for $410, payable over 4 years. And it's just it was massive. It was unbelievable. I never thought it would get to where it went.
So what are the ramifications,
Well,
for example, in a case like yours?
It's not it's not going to be quite as severe if you're working on the listing side, but buyer agents are going to be stressed in order to figure out where they fit and how they can get paid for their work.
So are buyer agents not realtors, or are they realtors?
Well,
also?
all agents, not all agents are realtors,
Right,
whether
I
you're a
knew that.
listing agent or buyer, not all agents. Buyer agents that are realtors are probably a little more educated now because we have, we've been in classes now for 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. The forms keep changing,
no
new
way.
forms.
Oh, God.
Oh, I've had more seminars in the last 3 weeks than 38 years. But I know what I'm doing now.
Yeah, wow, wow. And if something goes awry and you do the wrong thing, are there penalties?
You can get sued.
Okay,
And the Department of Justice is still out there watching
Wow.
what's happening. And if they get any indication that people aren't changing their ways, you could be involved in a lawsuit.
so I heard about it way back that it was going on. I saw there was a settlement, and what do you think the impact will be on real estate?
I'm in a protected class because Keller Williams settled.
Yeah,
So anybody that's settled in this lawsuit
okay,
is protected.
yeah,
We still have to change our practices.
yeah,
But there are some people outside the lawsuit that haven't, they're outside.
Wow.
They're floating around and they can still be sued.
So what will the impact be on Charlie Jones, who decided to put his house up for sale and calls his cousin the realtor?
Well, if I'm a listing agent, I'm still going to get paid.
Yeah,
But Charlie Jones can decide whether he wants to pay that buyer agent or not.
why would they?
Well, I'll give you an example.
Yeah, sure.
I talked with Carla, won't say her last name, and she's got a 3-family in Brockton.
Right.
I said to Carla, I said, I think you should compensate the buyer agent. And we won't use a number, but
Yeah, sure.
I think you should do this. And this is why. I think you're going to get a good price for your house, maybe more than what we're asking for. And there are going to be agents coming in with buyers that don't have a lot of money. And rather than say to them, kick them out the door, I think if we offer them something, we're more likely to get a strong buyer and a better deal.
Okay.
So that's the incentive. And she took my recommendation and she's going to go that way.
Wow.
Rather than saying, no, fend for yourself. Now, if you're working with a buyer that's got $1 million house, he might say, let them fend for themselves because the buyers in that instance will have more money, more capability to pay their own agent. That's going to be kind of the difference.
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating a little
No,
bit.
no, but it'd be interesting
Correct.
to see the fallout from it.
Right. There's going to be fallout for sure. Yes.
So let's talk, as we always do, about first-time home buyers. Every time I have you or any realtor or anybody in the business, it really frustrates me. And I know you have some statistics in our time here,
Yeah.
but I did see a poll that said 75% of renters never expect to own a home.
know.
Isn't that tragic?
I hate that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I really do. You should always be engaged and follow real estate, even as a hobby. If you like baseball, you watch the box
Right.
scores. Follow the real estate market. Talk to lenders. Be familiar with the process. Talk to a realtor. Have a beer. Sit down. Say, tell me, how to do this thing. It doesn't have to be high pressure. It can be very casual, but try to understand it and don't fear what you don't know. I suggest that to every person. 25 years and older, learn what's going on. The day's going to come.
It will.
It will.
When the dam breaks, I don't know.
I guarantee
I
you
keep
the
calling
day's
it
going to come.
the dam that's going to break. Because it's been really
3 of my 4 daughters have owned real estate.
okay.
And the 4th one now just got a job. She'll be looking.
Okay.
Will it happen tomorrow? Probably not.
Yeah.
A year, maybe 2 years. Yes. Yes.
But the ability to grow wealth without owning a home is very, very difficult.
It is hard. It is hard. Transition of wealth. Usually, real estate creates wealth. Man told me that when I was in my 8th and 9th year of real estate, and he's 100% true.
So, any other tips for buyers or sellers out there? What they should be doing?
Watch the real estate market. Talk to a lender. Talk to your banker. Just talk. Say, I'm going to buy you a hamburger. Tell me what you know.
And work on your credit score if you have problems.
Good point. Excellent point. Credit score's got to be up in the 700s, 750. Pay attention to credit. That's a great point. Probably before anything, pay attention to your credit. It's got to be 700. Easy 700. They're slicing it into quarters now. 7 1/4, 750, 775. So every quarter
Wow.
you have benefits at every quarter, cheaper rates.
That's great.
Yep.
And what about homebuyer classes? Any thoughts on those?
Yeah, if in some of these programs, if you're doing 3% down conventional loan, you have to take the home buyer
You
class.
have to, right?
You have to take it, and I used to teach that all the time, and one section of it, and it's worthwhile because it talks about home ownership, budgeting, inspections, appraisals, insurance on a home, all the things you may know a little bit about, but not enough.
Great. Any statistics you want to share?
I didn't bring statistics. I brought this little bubble chart where they're going to send to the guys.
Okay. You
Uh,
can hold it up,
because,
they'll get it. They can probably hone in on
But
it.
this is what we use now when we sit and talk with sellers. Buyer
Okay.
compensation, yes. Buyer compensation, no. A buyer agent, and then the choices. But and you can see we have to ask the seller if we're sitting at a listing presentation. We need their signatures on this to make sure that we told them that commissions are negotiable, right up there, and that they don't have to pay a buyer agent if they choose not to. The forms we have now are probably double, all the things
Right.
that a seller has to sign.
Well, it's amazing to me how fast your technology has developed to go to an offer, to a P&S,
Yeah.
without even having paper.
Used to be 90 days from signing a contract to closing. Now it's not even 60 days anymore. It's like 45 days. And I just put a house on agreement in Brockton, and the day it went under agreement, the loan officer called me and says, "We can do it quicker. We might be able to do 30 days if your guy wants to do it."
That's
30 days.
unbelievable.
But he'd already checked out the buyer.
Okay,
Had all the
you can't
verification of
pack your
employment,
stuff in 30 days.
verification of credit, verification of income. He had everything checked off.
Wow.
And they do this direct underwriting where they can do it as a loan officer can do it, and then it goes to the lender later, to the people financing it. So it's all so fast now.
And we're running out of time, but I know you always like to say the value of a realtor versus a real estate person.
Realtor is a professional, subscribes to a code of ethics in our business, treat everybody fairly. You want to work with a person with the R on their jacket.
Perfect. Always good to
My
see you.
pleasure. Love coming here.
Welcome back again to the Register's Report. In this segment, we do something a little lighter in nature. We talk about some of our great Plymouth County and Plymouth colony history. But first, I want to thank Bill Callahan for the great job he did in describing what's happening out there in the local real estate market. And again, I want you to pay attention to what he said about changes coming up in compensation for realtors. There was a recent lawsuit that was settled with the National Association of Realtors, and it relates to compensation for realtors and buyers agents. But in this particular segment, our holidays for the month were National Lighthouse Day on the 7th, Purple Hat Day on the 7th, World Elephant Day on the 12th, International Left-Handers Day on the 13th, National Radio Day on the 20th. So let's get right to a couple of our notable records that relate to these holidays. First of all, many people have seen Situate Lighthouse. They just did a major renovation on the lighthouse. If you haven't driven by Cedar Point, take a ride by someday and just take a look at it. The United States government opened a lighthouse on Cedar Point in 1811. Simeon Bates was the first lighthouse keeper, but in the summer of 1814, during the War of 1812, when actually we had separated from the British, but they were coming back, haunting ship travel, taking people off the ships, suppressing them into the British Navy. Another war was started, the War of 1812. And during that time period, a British frigate was trying to get into Situate Harbor. the lighthouse is on the point of the harbor. So the lighthouse keeper was away on that day, and his two daughters, Rebecca Bates and her sister, just Abigail, decided to try to scare away the British frigate. They made a lot of noise, like there was a troop mustering, and because of that, the British never entered the harbor. Over the years, there have been reports of the sounds of the fife and drum on very foggy nights like last night in Situate. Legends are always good stories to tell. The next one we're going to talk about, I said it was World Elephant Day. One of my favorite stories was from P.T. Barnum. P.T. Barnum was a showman. He ran a circus back then, a lot of shows in New York and many places. He bought Jumbo the elephant, and it was one of his main attractions throughout his time in New York and when he had a traveling exhibit. But he also had two well-known people who were height challenged, not really sure the word for it now, Tom Thumb and his wife Lavinia. But Lavinia was a daughter of Middleborough. So after the P.T. Barnum show came to an end, General Tom Thumb, who was in the production with Lavinia, and he settled in the town of Middleborough. There's an exhibit in Middleborough Center, the Middleborough Historical Museum, and there are dresses and a lot of history about Tom and Lavinia Bump. A lot of people don't know about all these mini museums throughout Plymouth County, but if you're ever near Middleborough Center, take a ride by and take a look. And last but not least, since it's National Radio Day, a very famous radio broadcaster, Reginald Fessenden, developed a radio tower in the Brant Rock section of Marshfield. He was an engineer, and he conducted the first two-way Atlantic radio broadcast in 1906 between Brant Rock and Scotland. Later in that year, on Christmas Eve, he transmitted a radio broadcast of Silent Night, the hymn, the religious hymn, and that was heard on ships as far away in the Caribbean. The tower has been dismantled. There is a spot in Brant Rock where there's a plaque that tells that story, but it's another one of our great historical stories in Plymouth County. That is not a myth, that is a fact. And last but not least, ever since the Plymouth 400, we've been using Plymouth Colony records to tell the story of the Plymouth Colony. This particular story is from colonial records in 1675. Many people might remember that at the beginning of the colonist settlement in Plymouth, there was a very symbiotic relationship between the colonists and the native people. They helped them survive. Half of the colonists died the first winter, but they taught them to plant. They taught them how to live in that really rough climate. But over time, they kept accumulating their hunting grounds, their land, and that developed into what is known as the King Philip War. Settlements throughout Massachusetts were burned. Hundreds of colonists and hundreds of native people died in this war. There's a book called Mayflower that in that book they say the highest number of people killed in any war in America. But during that time period, it was also a very difficult time. You had to be aware. And this is of a colonial record that basically ordered people when you went to church, when you went to public service, you had to bring your musket and bullets with you. And if you didn't, with your charges of power, your musket and the bullets, you had a 2-shilling fine. And if you couldn't pay that, you'd be put in the stocks. So different stories of different times. Plymouth County, Plymouth Colony has great history. And I want to thank again the local scene here at PAC TV for letting me share stories about real estate and about some of our great Plymouth County and Plymouth Colony history. So we'll see you in the next show. Will be after Labor Day. So have a great end of summer, and I'll see you in September.